Hello, and welcome to the second edition of My Dance, My Voice, Black Hearts Are Burning. My name is Alicia Graf Mack, and I am the director of the dance division at the Juilliard School. I am greatly honored to moderate today's discussion with four dancers who I have admired as artists and as stand-up human beings. Before we start today, I'd like to thank Manhattan Youth Ballet, Whistle Dance, and Aaron Fogarty for hosting this forum and for providing the space for meaningful conversations towards change. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the guest panelists for today's discussion. First, we have the incomparable Michaela DePrince. She is a soloist with the National Ballet, an author, and is a War Child ambassador. Gabe Shayer is a dancer with American Ballet Theater and the first Black male to graduate from the prestigious Bolshoi Ballet Academy in Moscow, Russia. Michelle Fleet is a former dancer with Paul Taylor Dance Company, the co-founder of Asbury Park Dance Festival, and a brilliant entrepreneur. And finally, Lloyd Knight is a revered principal dancer with Martha Graham Dance Company and a guest artist with Ballet Flanders. Aaron and I will be guiding the discussion with you today with questions that you posed our audience when you registered for this discussion. Feel free to post questions in the comment box, and we will be taking note and we'll try to answer them at the end of the discussion. So Michaela, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Upon graduating from the JKO School at American Ballet Theater, you began your career with Dance Theater of Harlem before moving on to Dutch National Ballet. Can you share your experiences as a Black ballerina in these companies?
For me, having the opportunity to go dance to the Harlem was obviously an incredible dream, and it gave me an opportunity to feel like I could be myself. And I didn't really know what that felt like to be surrounded by not just one Black dancer, but a whole group of brown, dark brown, light brown, different colored dancers. And it was just so inspiring to feel like, okay, finally I belong, you know? But at the same time, for me, I just felt like, okay, this is an incredible place. I'm learning so much. I'm feeling like I'm my own, but at the same time, I really wanted to be in a classical company where I could really break those boundaries and really tear down the walls so that I didn't have to feel like I could be alone in those companies. I wanted to have other people who looked like me in those companies. So I decided to go and join Dutch National Ballet, and I was offered to go into their junior company, and it was an incredible experience. I got a lot of amazing roles. I was very happy about that, but I kind of felt like because I was in a very big white classical company, my voice, I wasn't able to really speak out. I was really scared to say something because I wanted to become a principal. I wanted to become a soloist, and I wanted to rise because I'm a hard worker. But I didn't want the fact that if I speak up about my skin color to make me not be able to get into the position that I know I deserve and everybody deserves. But so a lot of the things, like I experienced a lot of racism and things being said to me, maybe they didn't mean it to be racist, but it really did hurt. And finally, once I became a soloist, I felt like, okay, fine. Now I can finally speak. I can finally try to change the way people see brown dancers. And I started doing that by wearing brown tights. I spoke to my directors for years and years about it. And to be honest, I know it was quite difficult for them to understand how important it was for me to feel not half myself on stage, how important it was to be my whole self, Michaela, on stage. And I know, of course, we're artists and we're playing a role, but it's also, you have to also have your identity in it in order to be a true artist. And once I was able to finally put brown tights on, it completely changed me. I became very confident. I did not think about anything else. I could really enjoy the role. I could really just do exactly what I wanted to do with it because I didn't have to worry about, oh, is half my body different or people going to notice that, with that distraction. But unfortunately, last September, I had to take off my brown tights and wear pink tights because we were doing balancing and they wanted me to go back to the balancing way because balancing, they said balancing only lets the dancers wear pink tights. But then I thought about the fact that I was working at DSA Farm, I performed balancing roles and I was wearing brown tights. So this completely did not make sense. But my director did say, please don't make this a big deal. And of course, me, if people know me, I will make it a big deal. That's just how I am, and I will fight back because I need to feel like myself if you want me to be the best artist I can possibly be, and you're not going to protect me because you want to be able to please somebody else who's coming in that's bringing you this choreography. So I did make it a big deal. I talked to a lot of people about it. I even spoke to Lloyd about it, like how it happened with her, and she did balancing roles. And unfortunately for her at the time, she had to wear pink tights. It wasn't really allowed for her to wear brown tights with balancing roles. But eventually, I was able to. They're like, "Well, you made it a big deal, so now you can wear your brown tights." And it's been a very interesting experience. And I feel like as well now that we have more brown and black dancers in our company, I know I want to be able to help them, especially the younger generation coming in, that you can come to me because I know the feeling. You're scared. You're scared that you can't go to your director and saying, I really want to wear brown tights. Or I really want to have not to have to paint my straps because you guys don't have brown elastics for me, things like that. So I've been really taking the initiative to say, hey guys, okay, she's going to wear brown tights on stage, and this is what she wants, and I think you should also acknowledge the fact that she wants to feel like herself, you know. Um, but it's slowly coming, but it's just so frustrating because I always constantly keep saying like let's spread more copies of the field of daffodils because and I'm sure you guys have heard this. People say, oh, well, it's so distracting to see a black dancer on stage. Well, if we had more, it wouldn't be so distracting. So I think with bigger companies, they really just spread more copies, have more diversity, because that also makes it a more beautiful painting and a more beautiful like, yeah, performance, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Michaela, as you're speaking, I realize, what about logistics of having those brown tights overseas and brown shoes? How have you had access to those things for your performances?
I was very lucky. I was working with Gainer Minden, and we were figuring out the exact same like color for me. I was working as well with our costume department, getting the exact right color, and they made me my own flesh tone mesh tights for me to look exactly so you can see my muscles, so you can see everything. And to be honest, like just to put that on, and it's people might see it as a little thing, but it just feels like finally I'm like myself. I can be myself and enjoy it, and I don't yeah, it's a beautiful experience. You really have people finally understand. But of course, I have experience with other people in the company saying, I don't understand why you get to wear brown tights and I have to wear pink tights. I have a bit of color in my skin, but the thing, I'm brown. If I wear pink, it's like a big difference, you know? And it's hard to let my colleagues say this to me because it just feels like they're kind of stabbing me like right in my chest because I've experienced this my whole life with having to deal with racism, not understanding how women should be in ballet and outside of ballet. So when people say this and not understanding this could actually be hurtful, maybe I should think about how I respond to this. You know?
Thank you. I think Gabe.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I feel like there's always this argument, or there's this argument now, and obviously through in Michaela's company, that pink tights and skin colored shoes are an equalizer, but it's not an equal. You know, in an art form that's predominantly white, um, it's not equal for Black people to have to conform to the exact same coloring when it's not their skin tone. And I know, speaking on that as well, growing up in the dance community, I didn't really have that many people to look up to. So I was trying to always fit in. And we were like a lot of Black dancers are always trying to fit into this mold that doesn't necessarily allow them to be themselves. I remember looking up to like Rose Acosta and realizing that the only way that I would make it was to be either a token or to completely lose myself and be whitewashed. Um, and unfortunately, that was true when I went to Russia. I was the only Black person in the school, and so I was always labeled other, as opposed to a part of the group. And that can be a difficult thing to digest. But now, in America and now starting all over Europe, hopefully they start, allowing people to highlight their differences and realize that that is also beautiful and acceptable in the ballet community.
Absolutely. So Oftentimes, what I'm hearing is that Black and brown dancers find themselves in precarious situations because advocating for yourself while trying to maintain your position within the company can be quite scary. And Gabe, you talked a little about that, but maybe you could expand a little bit more about how you have negotiated being a champion for equity and inclusion in your career without being perceived as disrespectful or unprofessional.
Yeah, well, so first off, I'll talk about like in school. Um, it's very difficult for students to speak up to their teachers or to their superiors because in this art form we're trained to be disciplined, we're trained to be quiet, we're trained to listen and take critique, and it can be difficult even now as a professional to differentiate between the line between something that's a critique or something that's inappropriate and racially disparaging. So now, being in a professional company, it has been difficult for me to speak up, and I've tried in numerous ways. About 3 years ago, we hired an HR department lawyer and counselor, and she really really helped me because I could go to someone who was impartial and who could sit in and influence and or mediate these discussions that we're having now. And it wasn't until the Black Lives Matter movement that anything that she said or she helped me with carried any weight. So I'm hoping that moving forward from this moment, people are willing to listen. People in positions of leadership are willing to listen and hear and understand and learn because we all come from different backgrounds, not only Black, but just everyone comes from different backgrounds. And really understanding who you're working with and who you're dealing with is really important in understanding where we should all be going collectively. So, yeah, I mean, finding if you have the privilege of having a mediator, that'd be great. And it's actually something that I really want to implement into all of the dancer meetings. Because, we all join these companies when we're 15, 16, 17, we're kids essentially, forced to be very mature. But to hold your own in a discussion with the big bosses at that age is not only daunting, but you don't feel like you have license to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like people should definitely have someone there, HR, counselor, mediator of some sort, to be an extra hand in supporting them have those discussions.
I completely agree. Sorry to jump in, but yeah, it's it took me a while to find my strength to go into request a meeting and speak up about certain things. But the more I talk to certain mentors and family members, I realized, I wish I would have realized it early on, but our time as professional dancers are so short as it is. And we give so much. We give all of ourselves to this job. And you just want to be respected. And you just want to dance. Dance is great and have fun and it's beautiful and all those good things. But you just want to come in and do your best and do your job. And you want to be respected the same way you give people respect. So it did take me a while to finally ask for these meetings to come in to speak face to face. And I remember my first the first time I did call a meeting because something happened. I was sweating so hard and going over in my head what I wanted to say and this and that. And I think in the end, what's happening right now anyway is everybody's speaking from their heart, their truth, and it just comes out and you just you lay it out as it does. But I agree, Gabe is so important. Well,
Can I chime in? I don't know if it's different for you guys in the US, but I think as well, even with like you said, 3 years ago.
Michaela, can you move a little bit closer to your microphone?
Yeah, sorry, and it's getting dark somehow. I'm so sorry.
That's good.
So I wanted to ask, like, because you said 3 years ago, because of Black Lives Matter movement, we're able to have these conversations. But in Europe, people say it's not as racist, especially in Holland. But the thing is, just because it's not happening necessarily so close to home does not mean you cannot think about how to change it. And I feel like here in Europe, they think because, oh, well, it's happening there. Here it's fine. We don't need to discuss it. We don't need to read books about it. We don't need to change really. We can do it just to make sure everybody's a little bit happy. But because it's so far away from them, they don't think it's as important. So I'm just hoping we're still able to make that change here.
Yeah, actually, Michaela, I just saw some social media posts calling out that the major contemporary companies in Holland and in Europe, many of them don't have any women, black women in their companies. So it's a sign of the time that I love that people are calling out what they're seeing and demanding for change.
I think we were going to direct the next question to Lloyd. What do you think needs to be done to see more dancers of color in soloist and principal positions in major concert dance companies? Because as Alicia just mentioned, you're talking in Europe, whether there's not women of color in certain companies, but you as a principal dancer in one of the most well-known modern companies in the country and in the world, what are your feelings on that?
I mean, right away, I just want to say, pay attention to us. From the minute you get into the company, you have to, you're watching your flower grow. So from if they're in the school, you watch them from the school and you continue to push them and train them the same way you would any other person. So yeah, I would say that. I would say if you don't have maybe people of color in your company to go out and really scout for those people, if they don't show up at your audition, maybe in New York City, go on an audition tour and find who you need to find. Accept videotapes, anything that you can to really strive for that position in your company.
Yeah, to second that, I mean, Black talent exists, and a lot of companies speak as if they're starting from scratch, as if like we do need to affect education as well, but a lot of companies act as if there isn't talent at the professional level already, and that's obviously not true here. But I think training everyone and treating everyone the same way, but also tending to the needs of people who are different. We're all individuals and everyone needs different sort of care. And I have empathy for directors because there's a lot of people to deal with, and you can't, have like 3-hour one-on-one with everyone, but at least trying to understand when you can and when you have the time, how to treat each individual. I think that would be instrumental in cultivating and nurturing the Black talent that exists, so that then we are all at the top. People who are younger in the school, at home, see us on TV. The optics are really important. The representation is really important, and I know that if I saw more of that, I mean, I'm here, but I would have been more encouraged as a young dancer.
I guess it's interesting. I find that it's also really about access. Access for the talent that does exist out there. A lot of the time, you have these extraordinarily talented dancers, but they don't have access to these auditions. They don't have access to be part of a school that is a theater school to a company. So it's like, how do you fix that? How do you change that?
Right.
Do you want to? Do you want to even put forth the effort to change that? Like, you should be perfectly
well,
honest.
Yeah, and Michelle, I know we had talked about this before, but receiving the questions from some of the audience members, and one of the questions actually said refer to, the in quotes Black and Brown dance companies, and mentioned Paul Taylor Dance Company as one. And as we spoke about, and I'd love for you to share, but I remember watching Paul Taylor for so many years, and you were a favorite of mine as a dancer, but I will tell you, I saw the stage, and I don't know if I would have referred to Paul Taylor Dance Company as one of those companies. So if you wanted to speak to that really quickly, then I know Alicia has a question for you.
I'm laughing because, right now, as it stands, the company is diverse, and has become very diverse. And to be perfectly honest, the company has been very diverse from day one. However, what you see on stage, that it doesn't come off as that on stage. There are people that are from all over the world that have been in this company. Again, but we are visual people. What you see on stage is what you take with you. So if you're only seeing maybe one Black man on stage all the time, you don't see any Black women, then that is what you're going to take with you. If you see that there have been Black women in the company, however, they're of a different shade, then that is what you're going to take with you. To be perfectly honest, when I joined, before I joined Taylor, I initially started in the second company, and before I auditioned, I said to a teacher of mine in college, and they were like, "Yeah, you started this audition." I said, "Well, I haven't seen any Black women in that company, especially of my shade of brown. I don't know if I will fit in with that company." That was my honest comment. And, my teacher said, don't, you have to go. You have to go and just take that out of your mind. And I never thought of it at first. And when I went there, first of all, I was a surprise. I ended up being in the second company, yes. And there had been other Black women that were in the second company. However, there had not been another Black woman in the company for a very, very long time. And when I did join, it turned out that it had been 20 years. For whatever reason, I'm not going to say that, they didn't want to hire someone. I don't know that, but I will say when I looked at that time, I said, oh, wow, that's wild, right? And then I was the only Black woman, the only person of color in the main company for a very long time. And then in recent years, that changed, which is wonderful. But again, while it is a diverse company, what you see on stage, when you don't see someone that looks like you, or that's what you walk away with, and you're like, well, is that for me? And then sometimes you're like, well, should I even go to classes there? Should I even bother to audition? What I will say, and what I'm very proud of, is that during my time there, I did witness a change. I changed in the schools. In the school, meant that there were more brown girls taking classes. In the ensemble at that, and we're talking about kids, that was beautiful to see that, kids coming from different schools, different places. Like having more people of color in the community and in general is so important because we don't know what talent is out there, and when they don't see a representation of themselves in a company that they admire, they're already thinking, I can't do that. You're giving me a reason to feel like I don't think I can do that. So, change. I'm not saying just hire someone that's Black and brown. No, of course we want to hire the appropriate person for the job, but keep your eyes open because there are all kinds of people out there, not just one color, not just one color.
Yeah, I think as you all are talking, I'm also very aware of how you all carry yourselves all the time and how you are role models to young people who are in training. I know I definitely have my mentees that I try to keep motivated and keep their spirits up. How are you all helping to bring the next generation along and to encourage them as they're training, sometimes in predominantly white schools? Lloyd.
Um, well, I know I reached out to and I had been speaking along the years to other Black people and minorities in the Graham School, and just reaching out to them. Yeah, obviously, there's very few of us, so it's just letting them know that I'm here if they needed to talk about anything, if they needed advice, along with people outside of Graham as well. You know, if I were to teach somewhere or if somebody wrote me and they asked me a question. So just trying to be a role model to them out there. And you know, it kind of catches me off guard sometimes because I don't, you know, maybe some people might say I'm naive or whatever, but you know, I'm surrounded by many races. I have a lot of friends of different cultures, and I it's not really a thought that constantly goes through my head. Um, so performing and doing a show and then coming out afterwards from the stage door and seeing a little Black girl or Black boy or their family, and they're so proud of me, yeah? And they have all these comments, and it really catches me off guard because I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even, while I was performing, I wasn't thinking about that. You know, I'm just trying to be the best I can be. And yes, obviously represent for my culture, but to hear those comments, you know, it's very touching. So I just try to be the best I can be for those people and be an ally. And if they need advice, give them advice. If they need help, give them help. You know, some people reached out to me when Corona happened, and I was teaching online, and you know, they want help with their grant, and you know,
Yeah, you started that first class in that unitard. I said, Lloyd is ready. Lloyd is ready to teach.
and I enjoy it. I enjoy giving back, and yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. So I just try to help out in any way that I can.
Yeah, I similarly I have taught at the Harlem School of the Arts, which I found so much importance after the kids talk about when I wasn't in the room. I saw this video. They were all interviewed, and they were talking about how it was inspiring for them to see a Black ballet professional come in and teach them and just talk to them like they were humans, which surprised me so much, and I realized how important that was, as well as this. We're in the time we're in the digital age. I didn't grow up with Instagram, but now we have that as a tool to present images for them to see. As a young kid, I never wanted to be known as a Black ballet dancer. I wanted to perpetuate, the idea of universality, but we aren't quite there yet. And that was a bit, hopeful and naive at that age. And I'm realizing now, obviously, because this is the discussion on the table, that it's something that I do need to I have to perpetuate that I am a Black male in a ballet company, and it's possible because I'm here and because we're here. So, really, really perpetuating that idea that it's possible for everyone is now a constant goal and a constant feat that I'm trying to reach via social media and via some of my mentees that are in the JKO school.
Yeah, Michaela, we know so much about your young life through your book that you wrote, your autobiography, and also through your experiences with YAGP, with the uh, first position documentary. And I'm sure that it doesn't capture all that you experienced when you were training. Could you talk a little bit about your experience as a young person aspiring to be a professional ballerina?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, you all know the story of finding the magazine, but sorry, there's a car going by. But the thing is, the first performance I saw was at New York City Ballet, and I already memorized the whole production because of the movie that they made from New York City Ballet. I knew every step and everything, but I still hadn't necessarily, I'm not sure how to see somebody who looked like me. And then we went to see it at Pennsylvania Ballet, and then like they all get emotional, but I saw Heidi Cruz on stage. And I was like, okay, like now I can really do this because she's there and she's a beautiful dancer. I don't know if any of you know her, but incredible, loving, incredible person. So when I started to go to the wrong school, I also had her in the studios before I would go to class. And seeing somebody who's in a studio that looks exactly like you and they're going to leave and you're going to go into that studio, it makes you feel so empowered as a little child that you're touching the same bar that she touched or somebody, you know?
Yeah.
And it was so incredible to find at a young age. Also meeting Albert Evans.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if you guys know the story, but I was terrified of him because as a young child, I associated black men as danger, so I wasn't quite sure how to approach him. But then it turned out, of course, as everybody knows, is one of the kindest, incredible. Like I couldn't believe that there were people like him out there in the world, and that I could also, for myself, my experience with Syria, and really open up to um, African, brown, whatever color people because of also him in a way. He was such a kind person and really just changed the way I saw ballet in general. So I continued training. I went to the rock school, and of course, I had some great teachers there, but I also experienced a lot of racism as well. I just felt like I did not love myself at all. I continued to try to like fight and be like, yeah, I'm fine, and putting up the front because if I tore down those walls, I think I would have crumbled because it was something I loved so much that I did not believe I was actually going to do. So I did not see that look to my skin color on stage. And then I started training at American Ballet Theater, and I had incredible mentors there, and I had incredible teachers. But I remember I had a specific moment where I had to wear my hair for a ballet over my ears. I have an afro. I have very, very nappy hair, very tender-headed. You cannot get me to comb that, nothing. And so my teachers, they said, why don't you have how to wear braids? They said, why don't you have straight hair? Like the other girls have straight hair. And I remember I told my mom crying because that's not my hair. This is how it is, and I'm sorry, I'm emotional. And so luckily, I talked to my teachers there, and they said, "Okay, I'm so sorry, like you didn't understand." And so they helped me actually go and get like some hair products and a weave with me. And that was the first time that they were accepting me because they were trying to understand who I am, and it was such an incredible experience and feeling like, okay, now I can just focus on the performance and so and so. And then I started auditioning, and I remember it was so different. I was auditioning for so many different companies. I had such big dreams and really high expectations and things like that. But I would see people exactly like me, like the same figure but a different race. And I'm a jumper, I'm a turner. You ask me to do something, and I do it. So when I wouldn't get into those auditions, I just did not understand, and it was very frustrating for me. I remember I asked a friend, and I said, "Where do you think I should audition? Like, where do you think I'd have the best shot?" And this person said, "Alvin Lloyd." And I've been training as a classical dancer, and that broke my heart because I thought, okay, maybe this person, maybe she's right. I'm never going to get into that classical company. But then I was lucky enough that Gabe and I had an opportunity to go to Holland, and we got to meet a couple of my Dutch options. And they gave me this opportunity to perform in Holland, and that's what gave me the opportunity to find out about this national. And I came back another year without Gabe and performed here, and it was an incredible experience. And uh, it was going to be the junior company, Ernst Meisner, offered me a job, and that's how I was able to get it out there. But I don't want to lose track of the story. But what I want to say is, well, like for me, the way I'm trying to help the younger generation is by showing them, especially like when I go to Uganda. I remember these boys were saying, "Oh, I want to be a football player, a doctor," and then I pulled up the book from Mack, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to be a ballerina. I'm going to be a ballerina." And I thought that was such a beautiful thing that they could see somebody who's doing something so classical so athletic, so I mean, it demands so much of your body. And these little boys now have completely changed their mind that they can become something that they never thought they could possibly dream of. So it's been, yeah, a crazy education that I've had. And I've had incredible mentors. I've also had a lot of people telling me that I'm not going to succeed. And I know you read in the book that I seem very strong. I know with the media, we want to make sure you see that I have emotions. Like I was affected by this, and I wasn't always going to be like, okay, fine, I'm going to prove you wrong. I did. That was my mindset, but at the same time, I always second guessed it. Am I actually going to succeed? Am I actually going to prove you wrong? And maybe they are right. But if you also have another, like Gabe knows my mom, I'm sure everybody has heard my mom. She's very supportive, and she didn't let me quit because she kept saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. But if you don't have that support system, if I didn't have that support system, to be honest, I'm not quite sure if they would have been able to continue to be resilient and to really believe. At a certain point, if people keep knocking you down, you're just going to say, okay, fine, I'm done fighting, let's begin. You can only fight for so long and continue to try to strive for what you believe that you know you can accomplish. So I was very lucky to be able to meet incredible people who teach, who inspire me to be able to work with other dancers and choreographers who did believe in me. It was a small portion of people, but those people in the world.
Mm-hmm. And to the other artists here on this panel, how have you been able to kind of protect your spirit and your well-being as you've gone through your career?
Like Michaela said, just having that support group, that's really important. And I meditate a lot. That's one way that I like zone into myself. But with everything going on with Black Lives Matter, and you just, I've gained another respect for myself as a Black male, and not only for myself, but we as a people. So that's one way that's been helping me. At first, I was really, really emotional with everything, and we already had Corona going on. We weren't performing, and then to know that this race war was going on, and I recently just found out. Sorry, like side comment, but Martin Luther King's um, I his one of his speeches was originally called "Normacy No More," and I thought that was like it just hit me one day, and I was like, "That's so true." Like everything really has just been covered up, and it's become a normal in a really wrong way, obviously, and now everything was coming to light, and I was just like, I physically and mentally, spiritually can't just sit here and let it take me down. Because I know that we're all better than that. So, it's been great to hear all the stories and seeing the online panels and people speak about what they can do and what they have done already. And that really inspires me. And hopefully this will inspire others to move forward. And that's what's been getting me through all of this.
Yeah, to add to that, I would say, as a young kid, outside of the dance world, I had racist experiences where I'd be walking past a car and someone would lock their door or clutch their purse, and those sorts of things, similarly to just remarks in the studio, cut you a little bit and make you put on this armor. And there was a lot of colorism and tokenism in the dance world, especially at that point. And I knew as a light skinned person, or I thought as a light skinned person, that I could pass or get through. And that's another hit to your person, because I'm a Black male, and I shouldn't have to think about my shade. Um, but up until I graduated in Russia, I was the token. I was the one. I was the one who was getting through, and I thought, oh, this is great. I'm not the image that people think of a Black man. I'm not perpetuating that stereotype. and then all of a sudden I get into a company and then I start getting cut again. And to be completely honest, as much as I had a strong core, I still felt at times like I was paddling, and I'd go through like dips of depression, because it was hard to take people stereotyping me and not actually hearing my voice. You try as much as you can to say, hey, that's not me. But, when the vast majority is saying, this is you no matter what, then it's hard to speak up. But I love what Michaela said about Brooklyn Mack, because one of my something that I like to represent now is that masculinity does not have to be synonymous with brute strength or butchness or anything. It can be synonymous with passion, romance, grace, and chivalry. And I feel like now, the turning point, I feel like perpetuating that is something that will hopefully help everyone moving forward now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Michelle.
Oh, no, I was just going to simply say what has helped me during this time and during my career is to be my true self. And I am many things. And I refuse to be put into a box, to be stereotyped in any way, whether it's in my everyday life or it was in my dance world, And so when people meet me, when people speak to me, they realize, oh, wow, I had no idea, and they take the time to learn more about me, and all the odd details, that we learn about each other as people, and they respect that the same way that I do for them. And I continue to do that, and I strive to do that, and to surround myself with people that put forth an effort to know me, and ask me, well, how are you doing? And I would do the same for them, to be part of a group of people, my co-founders, to be part of an organization that cares about me, that shows that they care about me. And there is a moment in time when I can question that I will hold them accountable for it, that I will question them, and say, hey, what do you think about that? And how do you think that would make you feel? I do believe in holding people accountable for things and having a calm discussion about it, that I'm not attacking you for it, but I want to understand where you're coming from, and I want you to understand where I'm coming from. So I feel that has truly created a world for me where I can communicate my feelings, encourage people, inspire people, and receive that same energy from others.
Yeah, I feel like this COVID period, something that Lloyd was touched upon, is that it feels like, hopefully it's not for a moment, but the curtain has been pulled back a little bit, where not just black and brown people are able to see and understand what systemic racism means, where young people, students, company members, what have you, actually start to look around and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I've never had a black teacher before for a ballet class, or I didn't even realize we didn't have any black students in our class and didn't think twice about it. But I think now everyone is having those moments to sit down with themselves and see their environment and work towards change. I think actually, when I go back into the studio, whenever that will be, I feel like I'm changed as well in many ways. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Erin, have you?
I got some live Q&As. I do. I have some live questions. I'm sorry. When I'm looking down, I'm looking at them so I can make sure to get them all straight. And this sort of goes into what we were talking about. And honestly, representing Manhattan Youth Ballet here and as a school and as an educator, one of the questions that came in, I think, was super important, and it says, what could your teachers have done to have made your learning environment a better and more, I don't want to comfortable, but to have, what do you think on that now looking back? And then also maybe in conjunction with that, I'll just add, and I know we had talked, there was another question that was received. What did you do when you ever felt like someone at the front of the room made a comment to you that you knew as a young dancer was racist? I think we touched on it about a level of respect and where that, where is the line there? But, what could they have done to have made it better for you? And also, maybe some storytelling of some incidents, just so that as whoever is listening right now, that it never happens again.
Can I go? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is going to be very surprising, but I had a teacher, I think I was about 10 years old, and we did performance, and I wore red lipstick. I adored this teacher. I really adored this teacher, and I looked up to him 100%.
Can you come a little bit closer to your microphone, Michaela?
Sorry, I really adored my teacher, and I was at the wrong school at the time, and I thought he was the apple of my eye. I wanted to just impress him and be the best dancer I could possibly be, because he saw so much in me. But when he saw me perform with red lipstick on, he came to me and he said, "Please don't ever wear red lipstick again, because you look like a ape." And I'm 10 years old. And so as well, this is why I really hope that a lot of young dancers are listening to this. If something makes you feel uncomfortable, if you don't feel like you can talk about it, please go talk to another teacher who does know you and will be there to protect you. Because I was young, my mom wasn't there, I didn't know what to do, so I just said, okay, yes, because you just want to get out of the uncomfortable situation. But I feel like I'm hoping, and I also know younger dancers now, I feel like they're being able to speak out their mind. But if you do feel uncomfortable, please go to somebody and say that, because I would have loved it if you just said, maybe let's go for a lighter shade or something like that. That would have been so much better, because it completely changed the way I looked at this person as well as a young child. All of a sudden, everything crashed down, and he's telling me, he was saying I look like a monkey on stage. That was just, it was very, for me, I couldn't wear red lipstick for quite some time. It's a little thing, but I could not do that, because then every single time I would try, then I would see that image that he said he saw. But I think if you ever feel uncomfortable, just find somebody who's going to protect you, because that's all anybody ever needs.
Yeah, I would say, I try to have empathy for people who are in positions of leadership, teachers, because places like when we were at the Rock School, there's 30 to 50 people in a class, but as much as you can show care for each person and try to reach out and see if someone's keep your eyes open, see if someone's struggling, and to what Michaela's saying, and similarly to what Michaela said earlier, I also got the Ailey comment, and it's not so much, obviously Alvin Ailey is an amazing company, but it's not a ballet company, and I trained from and at the Rock School we were going to competitions a lot, Youth America Grand Prix, and as well as the Jackson competition, and every single time I competed, I would get comments afterwards from teachers from other schools, or just people who felt like they needed to insert themselves, asking if I was going to Ailey. And finally, when I got the strength to say, I put on, armor, and I said, no, I want to be a ballet dancer. They said, oh, DTH. And I was, again, okay, great company, but I want to just succeed in whatever I'm succeeding in. So I would say, that part's hard too, because I was alone, but I was with my school. I don't know. I just feel like all teachers across the board should never say something like that. Never assume. You can ask a question, but the assumption was a bit, inappropriate.
To what you're saying, Gabe, and what you also said, Michaela, about the whole Ailey thing, which again is a wonderful company to do as well, a wonderful company. And I am over into this. And so as a kid, they're like saying people are asking their mother, oh, she wants to dance, oh, she wants to be a ballet dancer, or oh, it's like, and I love my mom. She's like, well, not the only company around, which then I adopted that too as I got older, right? Because it's not the only company that exists that a young Black girl can aspire to be part of, and to learn about all these companies all over the world, quite honestly. And why not think outside the box, right? Why do you have to assume that because I'm Black, because that child is Black, and you want to be a professional dancer, that is the only, those are the only companies that you ever registered? That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're wonderful companies, but again, that might not be the perfect fit. They could be stars elsewhere, you know? So it's really important for teachers, for parents, for uh, people, for found anyone supporting the arts. When you speak to children, when you speak to people in general, think about what you said. Think about how that's going to affect them in the future and how it affects them at that big moment.
I agree. I remember I was younger, and I think it was like my third. It was going into my third summer of doing a summer program, and I was about to audition for ABT summer program, and a teacher came up to me. It was a guest teacher in one of my schools, and she didn't know my background. And she saw me in the hallway, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm preparing for this audition." And she was like, "What audition?" And I was like, "ABT summer program." And she was like, "Okay, all right. Well, wouldn't you? Are you sure you don't want to audition for just? You don't want to like? What about like ALE or?" I think she might have mentioned Philadelphia, and I was like, and I was like, no, I mean they're great, but I want to do this audition, and she was like, oh well, that's classical ballet, and I was like, yes, I know, and the past 2 summers I had done dance theater Harlem, so I was like, I've been training and I've gone to dance theater Harlem, I've taken ballet, like I know I know. And she was like, oh, she got really caught off guard. And I was like, what is there a problem? And I don't even know where I got that strength from, but it just caught me off guard. And she was like, oh no, there's no problem. I just want to make sure you go to the place that fits that's right for you and that's the right fit. And I was like, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like
all that after just seeing you in the hallway?
yeah, that's just assuming. But they put you in these boxes. And whether it might be they see your body fit, your body type, or they just assume. They assume that you're Alvin Ailey or you're a Philadelphia or you do Caribbean dance or
That's, I mean, yeah, I've heard it in passing myself. Michaela, actually, there was a lot in the chat regarding the tights and the conversation there, and it's a twofold. Again, it was, hold on, why is the matching skin color issue a problem for classical companies when it isn't a big issue for contemporary companies and contemporary ballet companies as well? And then also, just so you know, there was a back and forth, people asking about the Balanchine Trust and if they do require or not require. And it is not true. You may wear brown tights for any of the Balanchine ballets. According to the chat, again, I will make sure to fact check it. We will send it around, but maybe someone is watching that has that information or access to that information. So not to, again, disclaimer, we will fact check it, of course, but that was put out there. But again, so to put it out there in terms of, I mean, oftentimes in modern companies, tights, I mean, if you're wearing like, I know there's rep Paul Taylor, there's tights and the character heels and everything, but like if we're in a barefoot, you're not wearing tights. But why do we think it's, so prevalent in the classical companies when it's not in the contemporary ballet companies? So I don't know if anybody wants to take that.
I have to tell you, in Taylor land, I have a funny story. When I first joined Taylor 2, at the time, they're art and court. The costume, it looks as if it's been painted on your body, supposed to. And at the time, I was brand new in the second company, and we were about to perform it, and the costume did not met me at the time, and the director at the time was like, "Oh no, oh wait, no," because we had a dress rehearsal, and you know, it was actually I felt so good. I knew that this person was actually looking out for me. I was what, 22 maybe, and this person was actually looking out for me. Said, you know, this isn't right, and I don't know what I'm going to do. It's too late to go buy dye. They literally dyed my costume in coffee. I may have smelled like coffee performing. However, it worked for that moment, and then a proper costume was created for the second company at that moment, you know? And so it's not hard, you know? It's not hard. When I went into the main company, all of my tights were put up to my skin and dyed so that they weren't too light brown, too dark of a brown. Because when the light comes on, you know, it's going to change. So they took that time, you know, they put effort into making sure that I was lit properly, that I had the right costumes for my skin tone, you know, when it came to something like that. So it shouldn't be an issue. It should never be an issue. It's ridiculous that it is. And when it happens, people really need to examine themselves and the organization and why that is.
Can I chime in just about issues? I have some people approach me asking, so, Michaela, where can I get a brown skin tone underwear and bra for these other dancers? Or where can I buy? First of all, you can go, like you said, you can go dye it, or you can also do your research. And they also said to me, oh, so I had like a scar. So they said, you do need to pancake it. But then why don't you have brown Band-Aids for me so I don't have to pancake it? There's so many people, there's so many stores out there that are doing this. You just have to go and find it, and it's really easy. We're lucky. Go and order it online, or be there in a few days. So it's just about doing the work and actually putting in the effort.
All of it does exist.
It exists, but I wanted to chime in because I think, Alicia, we talked about this once a while back, that, you know, I, as a white dancer, you know, if you wanted a skin tone shoe or something, or wear a pink shoe, but the amount of money.
Can you?
Hold on.
Okay, I think I hear you now. Yeah.
Oops.
Well, while she's figuring it out. Oh no, you go. Good.
You good, Aaron?
No. Oh no. Okay. I was just gonna say. I said something earlier that, you know, there's an argument about the pink tights being an equalizer. But, you know, pink tights are meant to be the same color as your skin, as white people's skin, or the pigment underneath the pigment. And the ballet world keeps perpetuating that black people are other, which is, you know, the problem. You can't find a black, you know, the world actually perpetuates it. You can't find a black Band-Aid, you can't find black tights, you can't find black shoes. So I think that ballet companies need to like take a look at all that and understand that you're adapting to make everyone feel equal, not to make someone have to figure out something else for themselves. And to that end, also, correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, but Ailey did Petite Mort when you were in the company, and they changed the costumes. Everyone's costume was skin colored, and it looked great.
Yeah, I think that the argument that the tights are an equalizer, also, it's the same thing as saying, like, I don't see color, right? It's the same thing as saying, well, we're going to include you here, and that actually can be a negative and not a positive, to allow the dancers' beautiful skin tone to come through. You know, I started my career at Dance Theater of Harlem, and I think, like Michaela said, when I walked into the room, I was just like in shock, because I had never seen anything that beautiful in my life. So many different colors, and every color was celebrated. And when you got your swatch of what color you had, and you got your little spray paint, like a little can of spray paint with your color, I was chamois. I was so proud to have that, you know. And I applaud the companies that are starting to create many different color shoes and tights.
Is my audio back? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Amazing. This sort of ties into what you were just discussing. The question was, how can dancers find allies when they are not inside of a company? And I know, Alicia, we've spoken about this, and, you know, obviously there's more to come, but, you know, the concept of mentorship, like you had mentioned, but, you know, are there resources out there in the world, or is there a way for, you know, is it an Instagram direct message to someone? Is it, you know, what are your suggestions for young dancers looking for that sort of support and sort of wanting to ask how you dealt with something and, you know, looking for inspiration?
I don't know if someone's taking that question. I know that in the past, you know, I get DMs, you know, from random people that are asking questions about things, you know, and I'm like, oh, who's this? And I realize it's a young dancer, you know, and they're just like asking about, you know, what my journey was, or, you know, and asking for advice, and I'm all for it, you know. There's no harm in helping, you know, and help to guide someone onto whatever their path is going to be.
Yeah. Don't be shy to reach out. I still like. I think I recently I wrote to Stephen Galloway. He was a dancer and now he's a fashion mover and what have you. But I was like, can I get some advice? Like, and I wasn't shy about it at all. But yeah, just reach out, and because there's nothing better than getting advice from somebody of from your same background, somebody that you admire.
Yeah, I actually similarly I reached out to Dwight Roden recently, and he got back to me, and I was like, oh my god. But also, also I think all of us in some form or another are trying to put content out that addresses all of these issues. But definitely, yeah, reach out to me, and I'll try as hard as I can to answer everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely try to do the same, to respond. At the same time, I want to be able to really respond in the right way. So sometimes it takes a bit of time, but I want to be able to really give you the best advice. At least I'm realistic about that.
I feel like we're at a time now where we're so lucky that we have Instagram and the internet, and growing up, at least when I was in school in university, I didn't have any of that. So I remember my first time going to see DTH or Alvin Ailey when they came into town, and I was just so like in awe, and I couldn't believe it. Or my first time going to DTH summer program, and like Alicia and Michaela said, walking in the room, and you're surrounded, and you're like, wow, I never even knew that I needed to experience this. So, if you have all of this at your reach right now, so go for it. Why not?
I'll try not to have us go too much longer, but there were two questions. One, this is the question, and I honestly don't know the answer to it myself. Do you know if many companies go and tour to Europe to search for dancers, a diverse group of dancers, or is that not a thing? Like, any American company that audition tours, or are they all here in this country, or?
I can only
okay. Sorry, Gabe. Go.
I was just gonna say I can only speak for ABT, and we don't hold for the company. We don't hold auditions. People have to call in. So yeah.
For us, we usually have our auditions in New York, but if we are somewhere and somebody happens to take class, sometimes it might work out that way, but usually in the city.
Okay. And then the other question was, to your knowledge, are there any board members of color, any Black board members in your companies at all?
We at Taylor, Carolyn Adams who was an amazing dancer for the company and has done great things in the dance world. He is on the board as well.
We have 3 out of like 30 people, but yeah, we've had 2 for a while now, and then someone else recently joined in the past, I think, year and a half or 2 years. So it's getting there, but we definitely need more representation.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that there are more in the future. There needs to be more at the table.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they want to, I assume, and I know from at least one of them, they want to be a part of the board that has an inclusive company, and it's difficult to navigate that puzzle. It's like, do they come first and then we trickle in, or do we trickle in and then they come and support because they see that there's someone like them? Even you don't have to be a kid to want to be represented; they want to be represented as well in the company. So.
But I also there's one thing, I don't know if this but even if you're trying to change, I always feel like people, they have their own diversity month where they can really promote us and post it out and put your face up for a day and then take it down. This should be all the time. This should be really celebrated all the time. And please don't give me Black Achievement Month for 1 month. Like I've been trying to achieve things every single day. Why do I only get 1 month to be able to celebrate it or to have one day to talk about it? No, and it's more like I just don't want people to start having people or hiring Black people, brown people, whatever, just to be like, okay, see, you've done it. I want you to do it because you want to do it, and you want to be done. You want to be more diverse. You want to have those conversations. Don't do it just to say good.
Yeah. You can't ignore that you have Black people in your company or in your school. I mean, you can change your hair, you can try and change your voice, your clothing, what have you, but your skin color will just never change. So it's there, and take pride in it and try and do your best to make change within your institutions.
Alicia, do you have any more questions or comments for the panel?
No, I'm so honored to be sitting here amongst you all. You, as I said in the beginning, you're stand-up people who, I follow for inspiration. I know so many young people do as well, and I am a forever fan. So I thank you so much for giving your time to this conversation, and I thank you, Aaron, and Whistle Dance, and Manhattan Youth Ballet for keeping this conversation alive, and I hope we continue to do so for as long as necessary.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. This is the second in many. This is not a one-off, and I think that is what's been brought up quite often now, the fear of it. Do you post the Black Square on Instagram and that's enough? Do you have one conversation? Is that enough? And it's not, because we even received some questions that sparked an idea for another panel. There's so much to talk about, and there's so much to be done. And, I hope, obviously, honored to be a part of the school that I'm representing right now, but that more people join in doing this. And I am so grateful to all of you, because I know that it is not always easy to sit and bare your soul and share your stories. And it means the world to me. I think it means the world to everyone listening. We're going to keep sharing this. We will make this available. This isn't just from 1 to 2:15 p.m. This is all the time. And to our audience, like I said, stay tuned. We're mentorship, inspiration, but you all are just like hands up. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And people still dance.
And here's to getting back into the studio. And
Yeah.
I've actually been, I was back 2 weeks ago. We were able to do social distancing dancing. But the thing is, you're jumping and you're breathing and your breath stays in the air for 30 minutes, which is in
30 minutes.
That's crazy.
You get to partnering.
But I mean, it is, I really do hope as well, in the US, it does get better, because you really miss the interaction as well. You really miss being in the studio. It's like being in your home pretty much, So I hope that it all works out, especially in the US.
Totally.
All right, everybody. Well, go enjoy your afternoons wherever you are. Again, thank you from all of everyone here, right? Thank you to everyone listening, and Yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.